Let's get our country back. I am sorry. I am someone that believes in character. I am someone that believes that morals matter. But because of the state of this country, if I lived in Maine, I would hold my nose and I would vote for Platner.
The Graham Platner campaign is officially imploding, as a previous accuser has come forward and publicly detailed what she says he did to her. That's exactly what's being discussed over on CNN with Scott Jennings. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. All right, roll the clip.
I remember saying that, nothing that happened that night was okay or consensual.
Well, there's also the question of what happens next to Platner, who has just been accused of a major felony, which he categorically denies, and on national politics, potentially who controls one chamber of Congress this fall. Joining me now, CNN political commentator Alyssa Farr-Griffin, also Christine Quinn, executive committee chair of the New York State Democratic Committee, and CNN senior political commentator Scott Jennings. Christine, what's your response to when you hear her story?
It's horrible. It's horrible. And there is no way a woman comes forward and says something like this in the detail she has and the way that she has and is making it up. I mean, her statements are completely credible, and it is incumbent on everyone to believe what she is saying, and it is incumbent on Graham Platner to get out of this race immediately, and then I hope he is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the Maine law.
And Alyssa, based on what you've seen, do you think the response so far to this is markedly different than previous?
It is markedly different. You know, a number of prominent Democrats have asked for him to step aside, but I want to know why. I knew the first accuser, who did not accuse him of sexual assault, but of domestic violence, that came forward in the New York Times. She was a longtime GOP operative. She's somebody I've worked with, but that does not make her allegations any less credible. I don't know why that wasn't the line. I don't know why the Nazi tattoo wasn't. I don't know why demeaning Purple Heart recipients, homophobic slurs, racist and bigoted slurs on his Reddit posts weren't enough. When politics becomes winning at all costs, we end up with the worst people in office. And I think this is what we are running into. Democrats did not do their due diligence in vetting this man. And now their path to the Senate looks significantly bleaker because they went all in on this man.
Which people had raised that concern about the vetting. The flip side of it is, you know, if you want candidates who are, quote unquote, authentic,
He went to an elite prep school, but kind of masquerades as a working man. Like, this isn't even that authentic of a guy. This is what I think, and I've seen it happen on the right to some degree. This is what happens when the base of a party sometimes takes over the establishment and they want to burn it to the ground. This is a man who's dabbled in anti-Semitic tropes. He has gone. I struggle to find things to defend him at this point, yet most of the establishment stood beside him. And Democrats, one of their strongest arguments they want to make going into the midterms is it's about character, it's anti-corruption, it's about getting the Epstein files out. When you're standing by a man who's been accused of these things, you can't make that case as credibly.
Scott, if Platner does decide to step aside, do you think the Maine Democratic Party will be able to nominate someone new without alienating former Platner supporters? How do you see it?
Well, that's a great question, because it's something that Alyssa said. I agree, by the way, with everything Alyssa said. She raised all the correct issues and said this is what they had signed on to. The only thing I disagree with is when she said that he hadn't been vetted. No, he had been vetted. All of the things that have been stated, it was all out in the public. And people like Ro Khanna, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Tim Walz, the Bulwark, Pod Save America, all these people came together to overlook it all, to explain it all, to rationalize it all. He was vetted. People knew all these things. And a whole bunch of Democrats in Maine showed up and voted for him anyway. And a bunch of donors from around the country sent him money anyway. I agree with Alyssa's question. What changed? Why are you bailing on Graham Platner now? You already signed off on Nazi tattoo, a self-described communist, somebody who's had rape fantasies, somebody who has been on a social media platform known as a playground for predators, and on and on and on and on and on. And the difference between this accuser and the previous one is simply this. She's a liberal. It's okay, I guess, for Democrats that their candidates assault conservatives. But he broke into someone's house and apparently, according to her, raped her. And because her politics are correct, they can now believe it. All of this whole thing is disgusting. But to say that they hadn't vetted him or that they didn't know about all this is totally false. They knew it and they signed up for it. And I don't know why they're backing away from this scumbag today when they had already signed off on all that other crazy behavior.
Christine, what do you say to that?
I mean, look, there's not a lot to defend in this scenario in Maine right now. You know, I'd like to think that they didn't do a good vetting, right? I'd like to think that folks didn't know all of this in the way that Scott said, that things came out as revelations as it moved forward. You know, the kind of looking back on this very, very soon, I hope will give us the answers to that question about whether there was vetting and how deep it was. But, you know, the Republican woman who came out in the New York Times was treated terribly.
Scott, how do you think the Collins campaign deals with this? Do they even need to? I mean, this has a life of its own, obviously.
Yeah, I don't really think they need to deal with it at all. I mean, she's not in charge of picking the Democratic opponent for herself. All she needs to do is be herself. She's the most moderate bipartisan senator in the United States Senate. And she doesn't have any of these kinds of crazy allegations, not one single issue for her laying out there. All she has to do is campaign as someone who does what she thinks is right, no matter who the president is, no matter which party had the idea. She's a very bipartisan person. She's a very even-keeled person who's got a long record in Maine. People know her. And so I don't think she needs to do much of anything at all. I do think the Democrats here, though, are starting to have to answer some questions about their party's process. They did this with Biden. He had no business running for re-election. They nominated him and they took him out. And through an undemocratic system, they put in Harris. Now, Platner, they nominated him. And now through, an undemocratic process, they're going to take him out, too, and put somebody in that the voters didn't actually choose. This is happening over and over and over again. The party of democracy is turning out to be anything but when it comes to these candidates who get all these votes and then they take them out, right before the deadlines of putting people on the ballot.
The absolute lunacy of the establishment Democrats is on full display here. They knew about Platner's massive red flags before the primary, but ignored them because they thought a radical progressive could beat Susan Collins. Now that the truth is completely in public, they're panicking and running for the hills. Scott Jennings completely nailed it on CNN. The left's Believe All Women slogan suddenly disappears whenever the accused is one of their preferred progressive golden boys. They only care about morals when they can weaponize them against conservatives. They rigged their own primary by pushing a deeply flawed candidate, and now the entire Maine campaign is imploding. If Platner stays in, he drags the whole ticket down. If he drops out, they have to scramble to find someone new. Either way, the Democrats built this absolute clown show themselves. Everyone deserves due process in a court of law. But the political reality is that the Democrats completely abandoned their own supposed standards for power. They tried to sweep a candidate's massive baggage under the rug, and now it's blowing up directly in their faces. Notice how quickly they try to pull a Kamala Harris 2024 move the second a candidate becomes a liability. They just want to bypass the voters, swap in a fresh face without the baggage, and pretend none of this ever happened. Americans can see right through this corrupt strategy. This is exactly what happens when party leaders prioritize ideology over actual vetting. They completely played themselves, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. Jennings exposed the total emptiness of modern progressive leadership. The accuser is literally a Democrat, which is the only reason the party bosses are finally turning on Platner. If she weren't from their own side, they'd still be calling it a right-wing conspiracy. Total frauds. If the evidence points to criminal behavior, let the legal system handle it. But politically, the Democrats showed everyone exactly who they are. So, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye!